Hi everyone, I welcome you to this Navigator series where we are trying to decode the UPSC examination at its core. So in the present series, we are going to take up a few videos, 4 or 5 videos in which we are trying to decode the current affairs section of the UPSC examination. So current affairs has been a very difficult portion for the students to tackle, right? There are a lot of doubts in their mind as to what exactly is current affairs, how much to be studied, how exactly things have to be studied, what are the sources that we need to refer to, right? What is the right strategy to prepare for current affairs? So all those things I'll try to decode in the upcoming videos so that you get the right strategy, the right guidance and step-by-step procedure as to how to tackle current affairs for the UPSC's examination. So this present series is an easy approach to tackle the current affairs. So why exactly are we talking about current affairs? It's because the rising importance of current affairs. So you can see that the current affairs has been rising, number of questions has increased both in the prelims and the mains examination. So the coverage of this entire series would be something like this. We will first of all take up the importance of current affairs, a gist of it as to why exactly you need to prepare for current affairs in a separate manner. We'll also talk about few of the problems which the students are facing as of now, right? And then we'll talk about the right method or the methodology as to how to tackle the current affairs. So this entire series will be talking about the problems that the students are facing and a step-by-step guide, a step-by-step procedure as to tackle the current affairs in the most effective manner. So let's first of all start with the rising importance of current affairs. So as I've told you, if you take up this particular mains examination, the mains which was just held in the September of 2024, you will see that the number of questions of current affairs has significantly increased. So more than 30 to 35 questions have directly come from current affairs. And obviously this is the direct approach, but then there are certain indirect ways in which the current affairs is asked. For example, I'll tell you, even the current affairs is used in these static questions to substantiate your answers, right? To substantiate your answers, you have to use the current affairs. And that can be done even in subjects like history, even in subjects, very static subjects like geography, right? So that is the rising importance of current affairs. Fine. And from the classes which are held here at Vajiram, you saw that more than 25 to 30 questions we could directly get in the examination from the current affairs classes. So the point is, there is a rising inclination of UPSC towards current affairs, not just in a direct manner, but also in an indirect manner, because you are expected as a good student, as a good aspirant, you are expected to back your points from the basis of current affairs. You have to write certain things which are going on in the current affairs, going on in the current relevance in your answers, right? So that is the first thing, why there is rising importance of current affairs and why the students are worried and why we have come up with this particular series. The second thing and the very important thing is the ease of preparation. So current affairs, if I talk about that, if 30 to 35 questions are directly in the mains examination, this is something which I'm talking about in the mains examination, right? In the prelims, definitely the weightage is even more, right, of the current affairs. So if we are talking about 30 to 35 questions in the mains examination, this is almost a paper. In one GS paper, you know that 20 questions are asked, right? And the entire current affairs in all across the 4 GS paper. And very surprising thing was, this time current affairs was also asked in the ethics paper. So the current affairs is making its entry into the ethics paper as well. So if we are talking about 30 to 35 questions over here, we are talking about the entire GS paper, right? We're talking about even more than the GS paper. So but the most important point is that just like essay, just like ethics, right, which is comparatively less in terms of its syllabus, comparatively easier to prepare and very scoring, similar is the case with current affairs. It is easier to prepare because you do not have to go to multiple books and read and research and everything to solve the questions, right? And it is very high scoring. Because why it is high scoring? What is the reason behind the high score that you can get out of current affairs? Is because UPSC has a psychology, is because UPSC has a trend of asking question. It will ask the question in a certain manner. It will ask the question under certain themes. So if you're able to identify what kind of themes UPSC might ask, that is why this particular topic of current affairs becomes easier to prepare. Fine. So that is why there is rising importance of current affairs. Number of questions is increasing and the ease of preparing these questions is very easy. Fine. So let's move on. So let's talk about what are the various problems which the students face as of now. The problems is, first is like when a student is starting very new in this preparation, they have just entered, they want to be the officer, IAS, IPS, whatever. The first problem that they face is what exactly is current affairs, right? How do you differentiate between a current affairs and a static topic? Which particular topic is more relevant from the current affairs perspective, and and that particular year, and it is more relevant from the statics perspective in some other year? So to understand what is relevant, right, that is the most important difficulty of the student, because of huge amount of news and everything which is going on. Fine. The second issue which the students face is choosing the right topic to study. Fine. So let's say you have a newspaper. It's a 18 to 20 pages newspaper. If you count the number of topics in every day's newspaper, it will be simply more than 100. But then are there 100 topics to be prepared from the newspaper on that particular day? Not exactly. So how do you choose that topic, exact topic which can come in the examination? What is the psychology behind the UPSC's examiner, right? What kind of themes are often repeated? What kind of topics are often repeated? What is the focus area of UPSC under that particular topic? These are the things which you need in terms of your strategy. Then only you can choose the right topic, you can choose the right direction in which you have to read the current affairs. Fine. And the next problem which the students face is with respect to the sources, right? What exactly is to be read? There are newspapers, there are magazines, there are current affairs classes, right? There are YouTube videos. Fine. And then in terms of magazines also, there are multiple magazines of multiple coaching institutes, of multiple news sources. Then even in terms of newspapers, you have multiple newspapers to read. Fine. So what exactly is to be read? The source is one of the most difficult portion over here when we talk about current affairs. Fine. So we will talk about it. Definitely we'll talk about it. The other problem which the students face is with respect to how to read. So for example, you have come to the conclusion, fine, these are the source number 1, source number 2, and source number 3, which I'll follow for current affairs. Fine. Right. But then how to read them? How exactly do you need to read? What exactly is to be read over there? There is a strategy, there is a way to read the current affairs. Otherwise, it's an ocean, right? So you need the right way of reading anything, specifically the current affairs. That is an issue. Now, once you have read the things, the point is, what kind of notes do you want to prepare? How to prepare notes? Do we really need to prepare the notes, right? What is the benefit of preparing the notes? Fine. So all these things are the issue which the students definitely face. Do we have to prepare online notes, or we have to prepare offline notes? What is more beneficial? Fine. So these things are something, all these questions, all these problems are something that I'm going to decode, and I'm going to give you step by step process in all the upcoming videos that you're going to see on this particular series. Fine. And the last problem which the students face is how to revise the bulk of current affairs. I'm again mentioning you, it's more than a paper, it's more than one GS paper, right? 30 questions, 35 questions. Fine. And indirectly, if you see, it's more than 50-60 questions in which you will have to use current affairs, right? So how do you revise it? How exactly, when in the day you should read it for the best efficiency? How should you club your sources? All these things I'm going to teach you in this particular session. Fine. So let's move ahead. Let's understand what is the ultimate target of our sessions, and what should be the ultimate target of you as an aspirant. Fine. The first thing, you need to know the right strategy and the right sources. There should not be any experiment more than, okay, fine. Initially, when you enter the preparation stream, you can experiment with your things. Fine. Which source is better for you? What kind of a strategy works for you? But then after that, you have consolidated things, you have to stick to the right strategy. So knowing the right strategy is something you definitely need to understand. Fine. That is one thing. Then the second thing is what kind of notes, the right kind of notes should be your target. The notes have to be in a particular format which will help you replicate things or recall things in the examination. And the third thing that you need is the right solution to the question, which is the ultimate thing. Whatever you do in the examination, are you able to solve the question, be it prelims examination or be it the mains examination? Are you able to solve the question? Fine. So everything that you do should be in the sequence, should be in the form that you are able to solve the questions. So that is the ultimate target. We have to solve the questions. Fine. So let's move ahead. Let's exactly understand what is current affairs. Fine. So in this particular session, in this first video, we will talk about the PYQ analysis of the prelims, and then we'll do the PYQ analysis of the mains examination as well of the current affairs question, to understand what exactly is current affairs, what is the demand of the examiner, right? What is the demand of the exam, and then only we will be able to develop our strategy in a step-by-step process. Fine. So let's understand with the help of PYQ analysis that what exactly is the threat, or what exactly is the challenge which UPSC is throwing over us. Fine. So let's begin. Let's begin with the prelims current affairs PYQ analysis. So over here, what I have done is that I have selected few current affairs questions from across the years, the prelims paper across the years, 2-3 years, and I've tried to segregate them into multiple headings so that you understand what kind of themes are understood. Now, mind you, this is not a comprehensive coverage of all the PYQs, because that is not the aim of this particular video. This video will help you understand how to analyze the PYQs from the prelims perspective, from the current affairs perspective. Fine. So our objective of this particular PYQ analysis is, first we have to understand the current affairs. What exactly is current affairs? What kind of questions UPSC is asking? Decoding the question paper, right, to understand the right strategy. Fine, that is what we are trying to do. And third is how to read. When we know the kind of questions, then only we will understand what to read and how to read from the newspapers and from the magazines which is available. Whether to use the newspapers or whether to use the magazines, all these things will be covered in this video and the subsequent videos that are going to come as part of this particular series. So let's move. Let's take up certain questions. Let's take up certain themes from UPSC, and I'll try to help you as to how do you analyze a UPSC's PYQ from the current affairs perspective. Fine. So the first theme, let's talk about science and tech, the alternate energy. So in science and tech, there are multiple themes. For example, there will be a theme of defense, right? There will be a theme of health, right? There will be a theme of alternate, or you can call it emerging technology, right? Emerging tech. So these are multiple themes, or there will be a theme of space. So multiple themes are there under science and technology. So the first thing, let's say you are analyzing a PYQ, analyzing a paper, you have to understand what are the various themes under which questions are coming. So for science and technology, let's talk about this. Just have a look at the alternate energy. So the question is on the green hydrogen. Fine. Why this question has been asked by UPSC? Because the government has come up with this national green hydrogen mission. Now, why I am telling you this particular thing, national green hydrogen mission? Why am I telling you this particular thing is that UPSC is asking questions, those topics in which the government is really interested, or which is very important from India's perspective. So green hydrogen, definitely it's an alternative energy source, right? India is trying to diversify its energy source. Therefore, this question has been asked. Now, let's talk about what exactly is asked in this particular question. First is, what is their use? Right? What is there? Can they be used in the internal combustion engine? So uses is asked. So you have to make a list of the dimensions or the focus area of UPSC. So first, let's say if you're talking about energy sources, they will talk about what are the uses. Then can it be blended? How it can be used, right? How it can be used, where it can be used, how it can be used, and can it be used to run the, can it be used in the hydrogen cells to run the vehicle? So the alternative use, right? The use as alternative use. So that is where the focus area of UPSC is with respect to this particular question. They can also ask about, let's say, the characteristics, right? characteristics of green hydrogen. Definitely UPSC can ask about it. They can compare about, they can talk about different types of hydrogen. So if it's a green hydrogen, immediately your mind should strike, okay, if it's a green hydrogen, are there different types of hydrogen? Fine, one could be green hydrogen, one could be, let's say, gray hydrogen, one could be yellow hydrogen, all those kind of things, right? So you have to understand, okay, so there might be different types of hydrogen as well. Fine, so it depends on the source from where hydrogen is produced, or the energy source, right? So there are different types of hydrogen, you will read about it. Fine, so whenever this particular topic of green hydrogen is there and you have analyzed your PYQ, you would understand, okay, green hydrogen is important because government is focusing on it. And then but my aim is to understand what exactly UPSC is going to ask. So from the PYQs, I have understood that UPSC is trying to ask the use. Probably UPSC can definitely ask the characteristic. UPSC can definitely ask the types of hydrogen, right? So those things are something that you have to prepare when you're preparing for your current affairs. Let's take a theme, next theme, which is defense. Very important theme, very popular theme in the UPSC's prelims examination. Now over here, I'll tell you one observation is that initially, the defense topics or the defense questions were majorly revolving around science and technology. So this is the ballistic missile and the Agni missile, right? So they can definitely talk about, now these are very important from India's national security perspective. So you as a bureaucrat are expected to know what are the uses of ballistic missile, how a ballistic missile is different from the cruise missile, right? What are the various ballistic missile ranges, let's say, what India has, how to compare it with the other countries. So these are the multiple focus areas which you have to understand before you start your preparation. So when you understand the focus areas where UPSC is asking the question, your preparation will be more and more directed. Okay, so let's talk about this particular thing. In here we are talking about the ballistic missiles, the Agni missiles. So initially UPSC was focusing more on the science and technology aspect, but and also on the exercises. So exercise Mitra Shakti, or some kind of, let's say, initiative which the Indian Army has taken. For example, several operations are there, right? So these kind of factual questions and scientific based questions were asked in UPSC, right? But now what the trend has become with respect to defense is they're entering into defense administration. Now this is a new domain. Now this is what you have to identify. So each UPSC paper will give you what are the various new trends, what are the various trends going on, okay, with respect to in which direction the UPSC examiner can ask the question. So defense administration is a new entry into the UPSC's prelims examination, right? So they have asked about, let's say, the ranking of the various Indian defense forces, right? Who is at the, what is the hierarchy? This is the first time that they have asked in the recent years. This is the first time that they have asked this particular question. Now this becomes important because there have been significant changes in the defense administration. So we have come up with a new department, which is the Department of Military Affairs, right? We have created a new post, which is the CDS, which is the Chief of Defense Staff. We are going on with the theaterization of the forces. That is one of the proposals which is going on, right? We are going on with the National Security Strategy Framework. We want to make a National Security Strategy Framework in the country. So these are the news items which are going on, because of which you have these questions in UPSC's prelims examination, because there are changes going on in the administration. That is how you have to understand. Right. So over here, let's understand this particular thing. He is the head of the Department of Military Affairs. What are the duties? So what is UPSC asking? This is the focus area. This is exactly the focus area of UPSC. What are the duties? Is he the permanent chairman, right? Is he, can he exercise military command over the other three chief services? So obviously, when you read about CDS, you will read about the features, the characteristics, the functioning, right? The law under which it is, who and in which department that particular person is functioning, right? Who is the minister? Everything you will read about it, right? Those are the focus areas you have to identify by analyzing the PYQs. So that is how the defense goes on. Okay, let's take up another topic, another theme, which is science and technologies, terms and concepts. So whenever, now UPSC has a very unique trend that whenever some new kind of a word will come up in the news, for example, this word microsatellite DNA, right? So this might be in news for some or the other reason, and might be occurring in the news. When you read the news articles, some editorials, or somewhere in the science and technology section, you would see that this word microsatellite DNA is occurring multiple times. Okay, what UPSC would do, they will simply ask the definition of it. Okay, take another example of the terms and concepts. Over here, look at this, the aerial metagenomics. Fine. So you have to keep in mind that whenever you find such unique terms, fine, in the newspapers, in the material that you are reading, you have to write the definition. You should definitely know the definition and why it is important from the India's perspective. What are the various uses? Okay, why it is in news. Just know these two things, right? And this will help you in addressing these particular question. Now, one very important thing which you have to understand over here is that all these statements are very similar, would be very similar to each other. That is how UPSC creates the traps, right? That is how it creates the traps. So whenever you are reading any particular concept, you have to read the alternative concept as well. You should read the alternative concept as well, right? That is very, very important. Fine. So to understand this particular section of terms and concepts, you have to understand that what kind of things UPSC can ask, what is there in the news repetitively, know the definition, know the importance. Okay, let's talk about the another section. The another section is of schemes. Definitely a very important section. UPSC keeps asking on the schemes. Now this is a very old theme. UPSC will definitely ask themes. What you have to understand, what is the focus area? What is the focus area in the schemes wala section? So let's have a look over here. So in this particular scheme, the Pradhan Mantri Shram Yogi Mandhan Yojana, what is the focus area which UPSC is asking? The entry age. So basically UPSC is asking the beneficiary, or UPSC is asking the eligibility. Who is eligible for that particular scheme? That is the first thing which UPSC is asking. UPSC can ask the fund under that particular scheme. UPSC can ask whether the state is responsible or the center is responsible, or what is the sharing of the responsibilities between them. Definitely UPSC, right? It can ask if there is a sunset clause, right? Sunset clause means till what period the scheme is valid. Okay, that is UPSC can ask. Definitely UPSC will definitely ask about the aim and the objective of the scheme, right? So you look at this, age specific contribution shall be, what is the process or what is to be done in that particular scheme, the features of the scheme, right? Then each subscriber under the scheme shall have minimum pension of so and so things. So what are the funds related to it? What is the process? What are the various parameters under that particular scheme? Family pension applicable hai ya nahi? So these are the things, right? These are the things which UPSC would ask. So whenever you read the scheme, you have to understand the focus areas. Similarly over here, the statement is about one of the strategies, which is the Anemia Mukt Bharat strategy. What is the aim of it? Does it provide so and so things, right? Then it runs a campaign for delayed cord clamping at the time of childbirth. Does it run this particular campaign or not? Okay, what is the importance of this particular thing, and does it run the campaign or this of this or not? Does it provide the periodic deworming to the children and the adolescent? Is this a provision or not? So you have to understand the provisions. Who are the beneficiaries? Who is eligible? All those things you have to read when you are reading a particular scheme. Let's take up another example of the scheme. So over here, let's simply Pradhan Mantri Surakshit Matrit Abhiyan. Fine. So what are the various things which UPSC is asking? What is the guarantees or what is the provision under the scheme? The minimum package of antenatal care services, is it giving or not? Fine. Under this scheme, now private sector healthcare providers, what is the role of private sector? So we saw that we have to see the role of state governments and we have to see the role of central governments. We also have to see the role of private sector. Fine, that is what we have to see. So when you analyze the UPSC's paper, you will come to know that what exactly is the examiner trying to ask. Then when you prepare, so now you know, okay, scheme, if there is a scheme, I have to prepare it. What is to be prepared under a scheme? That you will come to know from the PYQs. Fine, that is what is the crux of this particular discussion that we are having. Fine, let's take up another very important theme, places in news. Now many students would definitely know that places in news is a very recurrent theme in the UPSC's prelims examination. So what mistake would they do? The mistakes that they would do, they will start remembering each and every place, right? Each and every place which is there in the newspaper. This is not to be done. You have to understand why, if these places are asked, why UPSC has asked these places. If these places are asked, why UPSC has asked these places. Now, when you understand the reason behind UPSC's question, you will understand, okay, if there are 100 places which are given in the newspaper, which 20 are the most important. That is what is the strategy. That is what is the real game of understanding UPSC. So if you look at it over here, these regions are continuously in conflict. Fine. In let's say they can be in Middle East, they can be the European countries, they can be the African countries, whatever it is. Okay, but these are continuously in conflict. Not any normal cities, not any normal areas. They are continuously in conflict. They keep on coming in the newspaper, and then as a bureaucrat you are expected to be aware of what is going on in the world at a broad level. That is why you had to know these cities or these areas, right? Similarly over here, cocoa producers, fine, India might be importing cocoa from these places, definitely, right? So who are the largest cocoa producers in the world? Now because India would be dependent on them, fine, UPSC has asked this particular question. Let's take up another example over here. Again, areas in conflict, fine, and then again the new regions which are in news: war between Armenia, insurgency issues, dispute. So you see, these regions are really crucial. And when India is looking at its international relations with these countries, let's say Armenia and Azerbaijan, let's say Mozambique, or the countries in Africa, fine, definitely with Israel, definitely India has very good relations, very important relations. So if India has relation with these countries, and if these countries are at war, then India's dependence, let's say if we are dependent on Israel for, let's say, technology, fine, and if Israel is at war, that supply chain parameter would get affected. Now these countries are asked because these regions are asked because India is dependent or India has relations with them, fine, and India will get impacted. So there is somewhere or the other we have to keep the India thing in our mind while reading the newspaper, while reading the magazines, fine. Let's take up another very important theme for prelims examination: organizations. Okay, so few questions I've taken over here in terms of organizations. You can pause the video and look at these questions. So what I want to tell you is that over here there are certain specific things which the UPSC would, let's say, ask in an organization. For example, the UPSC can ask, is it part of the UN system or not? Okay, that is the thing which UPSC can ask. UPSC can ask whether India is a member or not. Very important question which UPSC definitely asks, whether India is a member or not. If India is a member, whether India is the founder member or not, right? That is what UPSC can ask. They can ask, definitely they can ask, what is the function? That is the, for sure they will ask, what is the function, what is the objective, what is the mandate of that organization, right? They can ask sometimes about the headquarters, right? Those things. So you have to understand, when you analyze all the organizations in the last, let's say, 10 to 15 years of UPSC's prelims examination, you will get all the dimensions which UPSC asks. So what you have to do, what is your homework, what is the effort that I want from your side, is when you're analyzing the UPSC prelims paper, pick up a particular theme. Let's say you are analyzing question 1 to 100. You find out, okay, there are 3 organization question in this particular year. Fine, you write down what was asked. Headquarters was asked, mandate was asked, India's being member was asked, founding member was asked, UN system was asked, whatever it is asked. You write down those focus areas. Now, whenever you're reading something in the newspaper, you read that organization from the perspective of these focus areas. That is how the preparation has to be done. So look at it over here. Fine. What is the evolution of this particular thing? G20, very important organization, no doubt on this. So what is the evolution of it? Fine. Then what are the initiatives taken by this particular organization? Whether this initiative, the digital public infrastructure, is it an initiative under G20? That is what the question UPSC has asked. Now, World Toilet Organization. Now, certainly when this question came in the examination, it was a bouncer because it's not a organization which was too much in news. So it's not an issue. See, you don't have to solve 100 questions in UPSC's prelims examination, right? So you can probably leave that, but then look at the dimensions. It is an agency of United Nations or not? Okay, that is something which UPSC has asked. Whether, what are the initiatives which are taken by this particular organization? What is the main focus of this particular organization? What is the mandate? So understand the focus areas. Understand the focus areas of the organizations. Okay. Similarly, whether India is the member of International Grain Council or not, and what is the dependence of India on the International Grain Council. How is International Grain Council affecting India? So these are the dimensions under which UPSC asks the question. Let's move forward. Again, with respect to IR, certain IR based, certain agreements, certain treaties, if they are in news, you have to make a note of it. How exactly India is getting impacted? What exactly are the few top 5 features of those treaties? Done, more than sufficient. Who are the people involved in those agreements? Who are the countries involved? Whether UN is involved or not, whether India is involved or not, all those things you figure out. 5-6 points, done, prepared. Okay. Let's talk about few treaties over here. So for example, Israel has done something. Fine, the Arab Peace Initiative. Definitely it will impact India because India has good relations or has a significant relation with Israel. So this particular treaty becomes important. Then from this perspective, the US, whatever US and European Union are doing definitely becomes important because their policies impact the trade relations which India might have with these countries, right, or these regions. So you have to understand whatever is there in news, definitely it will have some or the other consequence on India, and then it will become important from India's perspective, from this exam's perspective. Fine. So figure out the dimensions, figure out the focus areas. A very important one, environment. So what are the various themes under environment? Pollution could be one of the theme. Definitely if some kind of pollution is going on, air pollution or chemical pollution, chemical based pollution, those things definitely are a very favorite area of UPSC. They would ask you questions on this. Okay. They will definitely ask you questions on biodiversity. So whenever you see such themes in the newspaper, you have to make a note. And from the PYQs, you will understand what are the focus areas which UPSC can ask. So for example, carbon markets, very much in news because India is establishing its own carbon market, which is CCTS, the carbon credit transfer system, right? So India is trying to establish this particular thing, right? European market has already established, they are already trading in carbon. India is also has a carbon trading market, but it wants to standardize it, it wants to formalize it. So that is why this particular topic is in news. Now you have to read about what exactly is carbon market, right? What kind of transfers take place? The question is asking, can transfer resources from the private sector to the state? In the carbon market, can the resources be transferred from private sector to the state? Now you understand, the question is on stakeholders. So there are few stakeholders, state governments, central government, both of them, let's say at the state, and then the private sector, then let's say the civil organizations, right? So there are 2, 3, 5 stakeholders which are more important. Now when you understand this particular thing, you will understand where to read. Fine. That is how it is important. And this is a question on pollution, like this particular chemical, are they pollutant or not? Are they getting degraded? What is the impact they will have on humans? What kind of issues that they create? Fine. Are they found in the drinking water, food and food packaging, all those kind of things? Okay. What are the various issues it can lead to? It can lead to the issues of bioaccumulation, animal bodies, all those kind of things, right? So you understand the focus area where what UPSC is trying to ask. Similarly in economy. So in economy, you would find majorly the static plus current themes, right? That is what is important in economy. So the question will be on, let's say, inflation, or let's say the question is on currency. Fine. But then what is happening in terms of currency in the news? That is what will be asked. Fine. So they're talking about the digital rupee. Currency, it's a static topic. Currency, you read in your foundation batches, you read in your NCRTs, you read about currency. But then digital rupee is something which is new, which is happening. Cryptocurrency is new, which is happening, right? How is cryptocurrency going to tackle or going to impact the sovereign currency that that RBI has, or that the government has, that India has, right? What is going to be the impact? How is it going to impact multiple parameters of the currency, the value of the currency, the interest rates, the bond rates, all those kind of things? Okay. So when cryptocurrency is in news, currency is that static topic, cryptocurrency is the current affairs in that, digital rupee is the current affairs in that. Okay. That is what you have to study. Over here, let's say interest rate hikes. So interest rate and bond rates, all those things you will read in your static portion. Now when you read the current affairs, you have to understand how they are related and what they are doing, right? That is how the questions are asked. So economy is mostly about static plus current relevance. Okay. Another very important theme, which is the theme of agriculture. It has been this was earlier not a very popular theme, but now for the past, I would say 5-6 years, this has been a very stable theme now. Fine. So this is a very important theme now. UPSC keeps on asking question on agriculture and comparing. Let's say they will ask about, they can definitely ask about the food crops and their characteristics. They can ask about comparison of India, right? Comparison of India with the other countries. So for example, over here UPSC has asked about India and the China's comparison in terms of, let's say, which has more arable area, right? With respect to the proportion of irrigated area, right? So now you have to understand that these things you will definitely read about from the mains perspective, because agriculture is a direct topic in your GS3 syllabus, right? So you'll definitely read about it in the mains program. But then when because India is a very big exporter of agricultural products, right, and China also is a good exporter, so when these things happen in the current issues, the comparison starts becoming important. That is how you have to understand what exactly the question UPSC can ask. Okay, so agriculture is something you have to keep in mind. It's a very important theme. It is continuously being there in the UPSC paper, but there are certain new themes also which are coming up. For example, the theme of sports, right? So sports question were earlier not very much asked in UPSC, okay, but in the past, I would say 3 to 4 years, this particular topic has become very important. Multiple sports question now come in the prelims examination. So now the sports page that we were usually neglecting in our preparation becomes important. But then you have to understand, not everything in the sports page has to be analyzed, because till now UPSC has not entered into the analytical zone, right? It has not entered into the analytical zone of sports. But mind you, because sports has started to come in the prelims examination, there are very high chances that it will definitely come in the mains examination. Now you see that the government is coming up with the national sports governance bill as well. Fine. So this is something which is there in the current affairs in 2024 itself, right? So if these things are coming in the news, definitely the probability of the sports based question increasing in the prelims examination and the mains examinations increase. So sports is one thing which becomes important, but you have to be very careful when you read sports. Not everything is to be read. You have to read, let's say, India's ranking, or I would say in a general term, what is the performance of India, right? How is India performing with respect to various sports? And then these sports would be the major sports. Okay, for example, what is India's performance with respect to, let's say, tennis, right? What is performance with respect to cricket, right? Let's say football. So those kind of major sports are somewhere which the UPSC is going to address, or the sports which are there in Olympics, because Olympics is in news, is always, it's in news, right? Every 4 years it will be in news, right? So and before and after 4 years it will keep on there in the news, because of the preparation, because of the performance, all those kind of things, right? So that is why sports as a section is definitely becoming important. Now in polity, you will see questions if a new legislation has come, let's say, right? If a new legislation has come, some new act has come, so those kind of questions are definitely being asked, right? For example, this Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam, or the Women Reservation Bill. So the bill was asked, the provisions of the bill, what is there in the bill, what is not there in the bill. So it's very important to understand what is not there in the bill. Very important to understand this particular thing. That is where the traps are usually laid by UPSC, because we assume a few things. We assume, okay, fine, these things would definitely be there. So that is where you have to understand, okay, this is how you have to prepare it. Now art and culture, definitely these things you would have definitely read in your whatever sources you are referring for your art and culture. But now why are they in news? Because probably they have become the World Heritage Sites. New World Heritage Sites come up, right? So UPSC can ask question on the old World Heritage Sites as well. Not a issue at all. That is what you have to remember. When World Heritage Site is in news, then you have to read about the old as well as the new world heritage sites. Okay, that is how you read. That is what is the strategy. That is what is the importance of analyzing the PYQs. Okay. Now this is another theme, which is another very important theme, which is there in the UPSC paper. Any term, fine, whatever new terms would be there in the, just like we read about terms and concept in science and technology, right? The metagenomics, all those kind of microsatellite DNA, all those kind of things which were there in news, right? Small terms. Similarly, terms can be there in other subjects as well. So 100 million farmers, some kind of an organization. Just know about that organization. Who are the members? Right? What is, first of all, the function of it? What is, let's say, India's relation to that particular organization? So keep the focus on India and keep studying what exactly is to be studied. Fine. So you look at it. It's a platform for accelerating the transition. So this is the function area. What is the function of this particular organization? Okay. It is an international alliance. Whether it's an international alliance or it's a domestic organization, definitely you have to understand this. It's a digital platform fully integrated with service providers. Okay, that is the unique feature of this particular thing, and a platform with mission of encouraging the farmers to form farmer producer organization. What is the main mandate or the aim of this particular organization? Okay, so these are the few focus areas which you have to understand. So what is the gist that we are trying to come up to? Understand the theme, understand the topic, understand the focus area. Similarly, infrastructure. Now, infrastructure questions were there in UPSC, let's say in 2011, 12, 13, those kind of areas. But in between, they sort of stopped asking on infrastructure, or very few questions were coming. But now again, since there is huge amount of focus which the government is giving on infrastructure, again, this particular thing is in news. It's started to coming in news. So UPSC will ask about new ports, let's say. It can start asking about the airports or the energy infrastructure. Those things will definitely become important. Road infrastructure, right? Railways, right? So there are so much of focus which the government, this particular government, has been giving on infrastructure for the past 10-15 years, right? That this is a theme which is becoming very important. Fine. So over here, see, this in the UPSC has asked about the airports. They can ask about the railways. They can ask about the roads. So keep an eye on infrastructure as a question. Now, what questions can be asked? Simple. Now, when the trend, when you have to understand this one thing, that when the topic or a theme is just started to come in the examination, they will ask simple questions only, factual questions only. But when it has stabilized, they will move into the analytical domain. So for infrastructure right now, they will be majorly static questions only in the prelims examination. That is what you have to keep in mind and then prepare, right? So what is the summary of this entire discussion that we did for this first particular video? We talked about the prelims question. We talked about what are the various questions which come in the prelims examination from the current affairs perspective. What is the gist of it? We understood that we need to know the topic, what kind of topic is asked by UPSC. We need to know the focus areas, right? We need to know the focus areas. What exactly in that topic, what exactly is the UPSC asking? And then we have to choose the right topic from the newspapers or the magazines or any other current affairs source that we will discuss later as well. Choosing the right topic and studying in the direction of focus area. The strategy, the study, the preparation has to be very directed, right? So give as much time as possible in analyzing the PYQ. That is the homework, or that is the effort which I want from your side. Analyze the PYQs, give as much time as possible before entering into the preparation. Because if you do this portion well, your effort for the examination will come down. Your time taken to understand things, your time taken to cover up things will come down. Your fear, right? Your fear of the unknown. Because UPSC, it's like anything under the sun can be asked, but that's not true. Not everything is asked, right? So your fear of the unknown will come down because you know, okay, you understand the psychology of the examiner. Fine. So this will come down, and this will definitely help you in understanding, in ensuring, in creating your own strategy. If you have the right strategy, you will have the right rank in that holy PDF. Fine. So that's all for this particular session. We analyzed the PYQs of the prelims examination from the current affairs perspective. We understood the focus areas, the kind of topics. Now it's your time to analyze the paper, get us those themes, get the dimensions, make a note of it, and then start your preparation. So thank you so much everyone for this particular video. In the next video, I'll see you with the mains PYQ analysis from the current affairs perspective. So a lot of things are going to come in this particular series. Stay tuned and prepare your current affairs in the best possible manner. Thank you.